Hungary has secured an exemption on US sanctions on Russian oil and gas introduced in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It follows a meeting in Washington between Prime Minister Viktor Orban and President Trump. The deal means Hungary will be able to continue its imports from Russia. Mr. Orban later told reporters heating bills would stay low, crucial in the run-up to a parliamentary election in Hungary in 5 months' time. Congresswoman Julia Johnson sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. She gave us her reaction to the news.
It's really ridiculous because from what I understand, Hungary and Orban has increased their purchasing of Russian oil from 61% to now 86% of their oil supply is from Russia, which is only enabling Russia to continue their war against Ukraine. So obviously I'm very disappointed in that. As a member of NATO, we would expect more from Hungary, but obviously their dictator, President Orban, is just not on the same page with the rest of NATO.
Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia has launched 450 drones and 45 missiles overnight in attacks on the country, targeting the energy sector and other infrastructure. Rescuers in the southern city of Dnipro have worked through the night after a Russian drone struck a high-rise residential building. Several people are being treated in hospital. Well, let's cross live to Kiev now and speak to our diplomatic correspondent, James Landau. And James, what can you tell us about these latest Russian strikes on Ukraine?
Well, good morning. Yeah, they were a pretty substantial, significant attack, a combined attack, as you say, involving about 450 unmanned aircraft, largely the now infamous Shahed drones, and about 45 missiles, a lot of them ballistic missiles, targeted primarily at energy infrastructure, we're told by the Ukrainian authorities, but also, as you say, some of them have also hit civilian infrastructure, the most significant of which was a residential block in Dnipro, where we now know that 2 people have died and around 11 are injured. So quite a significant strike there. And I think what was interesting about this one is that it was very comprehensive and it was geographically spread. There was an awful lot of attacks against an awful lot of targets across the country. To give you the stats, according to the Air Force, of all the missiles that got through, 26 hit their targets and 52 unmanned aircraft hit their targets in 25 separate locations. So that gives you just a sense of the scale of the overnight attack.
And James, just going back to that news coming into us from the US, President Trump's decision to exempt Hungary from these latest US sanctions on Russian energy companies, how much will this weaken these latest US sanctions?
I think this decision has two impacts. One is just the straightforward practical impact. It weakens the effect of the American sanctions. It means for the next year, Russian coffers will be filled with Hungarian cash paid for all that oil, and the Russian economy and government will be able to use that money to pay for the drones and the missiles that we have been seeing here in Kiev overnight. That is just a brutal fact that at the moment Hungary and a couple of other countries in Europe that are still buying substantial amounts of Russian oil and gas, they are directly fueling the Russian war machine. But I think also it just will undermine the diplomacy. I think the Europeans had hoped that when they had finally got the Americans, after all these years, to impose substantive sanctions on 2 key Russian oil manufacturers, the largest firms, 2 of the largest firms in Russia a few weeks ago, that had a real impact. It's meant a lot of countries around the world are thinking again, rejigging their plans. The 2 companies are having to sell off all their assets in Europe. It was sanctions with real teeth, and I think this exception will weaken that democratic impact. And we've already had some reaction from the Ukrainians. This morning, Volodymyr Zelensky, as well as talking about the overnight attacks, the president also said this. He said, and I'm quoting here, "Russian strikes show that pressure must be intensified. There must be a sanctions response targeting all Russian energy with no exceptions." And that's the key phrase, with no exceptions. President Zelensky is saying that less than 24 hours after Donald Trump made an exception.
James, thank you for bringing us up to date. That's our diplomatic correspondent, James Landale in Kyiv there.